All right, guys. Welcome to our evening session, everyone, of Hobby Talk. And we're going to do a post national part two today, this evening with Kurt Christensen. Kurt is actually in the process of logging in right now, but I wanted to start the feed because I didn't want to lose the link because Facebook has some wacky um, you know, uh, rules that if it goes a certain amount of minutes, then the feed won't go on Facebook. So I started it up. Um, I basically he's about to log in, and we're gonna kind of do an extension of what we were doing earlier today of just some Q&A. Any questions you guys have, please start feeding them in, and we'll get Kurt to hopefully answer them, and if I can do anything on my own as well and answer any questions you may have, I'm all for it as well. So let me. I see some comments rolling in, and guys, thank you. Keep them coming, and the questions I'll answer them. So like I always do, in order. Just try to get to everybody's question. If you don't see your question show up, it's not that I didn't see it. It's I'm just trying to kind of go in the order that I received them. So just give me like another 30 seconds here, guys. I'm gonna resend the link to Kurt, and hopefully that'll get him online here, and we will get things get things started. So just bear with me 1 second here. And there we go. He has the link. Okay, great. So yeah, guys, I for those of you who haven't seen the earlier session, we did a brief session and we started touching on some really good topics, getting Kurt's feedback on hey Mike, what's going on, buddy? We just started getting some good feedback from Kurt on what he was seeing at the show, and just a quick recap on that if you haven't seen it. Um, some of the key takeaways, at least for me, was some products that were expected to kind of go on the higher end and sell more were kind of a little bit on the slower side, but overall a very busy show. A lot of products sold in general. Some things, like I said, that were expected to kind of sell more, sold a little less. Some that were expected to sell a little less, sold more. But overall, it was a great show. And like again, I was saying, there was a lot of really good feedback from Kurt. And speaking of, it looks like we have Kurt on the line here, so I'm going to bring him right in. And here we go. Hey, Kurt, how are you? We're live in Facebook and YouTube and everywhere in between. How are you?
Hi, David. I'm good. So had to do the old computer switcheroo.
Hey, listen, sometimes we have to improv, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, no, thanks for doing a second round with us here, buddy. And I know there's a lot we didn't get to touch on in our brief session earlier today. So, and we do have some questions kind of pouring in. I was telling the group to, please bring them in, and hopefully we can get to answer all of them. So, but out of the gate, let's start with kind of the little cliffhanger teaser you left us with before on the buying side of things. I would love to hear your take on kind of what caught you by surprise and what you'd like to share with us regarding the buying side of things.
Yeah. So I did leave that with a teaser because myself and my friend Michael Honeyman were able to secure a pretty major purchase at our table. So I'll talk about that first. So that's the highlight. And then I can also talk about the lows of buying, which is all the resealed product you see, and then
Wow.
also the chances of buying other great items, but people's idea of value is kind of out in the stratosphere. So there's three ways to go with that. But at first thing is what everybody wants to hear about. This was on, I believe, Wednesday. We were already set up towards the tail end of the day, but before general admission was in, and Michael and me were just in the booth hanging out, and somebody approached our table and asked if we were interested in buying packs. And of course, he could see we had packs at the table and we like packs. And he pulled out of his bag a couple pretty rare 1969 O-Pee-Chee hockey packs. Michael, I see he is on here. Mars Attacks is Michael. Michael, you can probably tell me which series those were. I don't know if they were series 2 or 3 or something. Difficult packs. I'm glad I had Michael there because he's a hockey guru, and I basically let him go to work. Offer was made on those. Didn't accept the offer, didn't say no, just said he'd get back to us. However, the guy's has a huge backpack on him. I'm like, I just flat out asked him, I'm like, man, you got to have something else in the backpack, don't you? He's like, well, maybe. I said, well, what does it hurt? It doesn't hurt to show us. So he pulled out of his backpack, and packs for Series 2. All right. So Series 2, 69 O-Pee-Chee hockey packs.
Wow.
Were what were presented. And then we moved on to, what else you got? And he pulled out of his box a very beautiful display box, 1970 Topps hockey. And inside the box were 18 out of 24 packs, gorgeous raw 70 Topps hockey packs. Just was a sight to behold. And
amazing.
Yeah, so not something that, I'm not as well versed in hockey as some of these experts here, like Michael, but I know enough that that's the real deal there. So we were able to take our time, examine the packs. Packs were gorgeous. I'm guessing if most of them ended up getting slabbed, you got a lot of 8s, and 8s for that early in hockey puck is incredible. Went back and forth a little bit, but there was no way, especially with Mr. Hockey Man, Honeyman right next to me, he was letting that guy walk away with that, partial hockey box. So there were some negotiations between Michael and me and the guy. And to make the rest of the story short, Michael secured the purchase of the partial hockey box. And then the guy also had smaller box of still some good packs, not quite 70 hockey, but some mid 70s O-Pee-Chees, 74, 75, 74, 75 Topps, some loose packs that I was able to secure that purchase. And that's what it's all about, finding. That's a rare item, just like Michael just says, amazing find. That's a rare item that you're not expecting, to show up. Yeah, you'd be thrilled with, say, 75 Topps hockey box coming to your table or something, but that was something special, and that'll be a purchase memory that that's gonna be hard to top.
I was gonna say that's an amazing highlight, and again, I'm not a big hockey buff, but I do know enough, especially with my interview with Mike, a couple months ago, to know that is creme de la creme right there. So to just see, and it's so funny, you see, I'm sure you probably saw a million backpacks walking around the show, right? Would you imagine that one of those backpacks were just going to roll in with such rare hockey packs? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and what's really neat about that is, and this is where the community and the friends we have together, really help out. Because as I talk again, about all the bad resealed product I saw. So, when these things show up to you, these are big dollar purchases. We're not talking, $100 bills here. These are multiple thousands of dollars, the purchases. And these packs are not authenticated. They're not graded. They're raw. So, you got to have enough of a skill set to be able to make that call on the spot, or it's moving down the road. So thankfully, Michael was there. We both took the time. We both put our eyeballs on it. Came back and talked. We liked the packs. Once we had the box purchased, we were very comfortable buying the box. We paid the guy, and took possession of the box. Later on in the show, Michael did walk the box down or the partial box to Steve at Baseball Card Exchange, and he did agree. He did like
a final blessing, right?
Yes. But that's the dynamic. You have to be able to be comfortable shelling out, thousands of dollars, because this was a collector that, has had this item forever. It was never an intention to be, sold. The time, he was an older gentleman, so the time was right for him to sell. And, so you weren't being presented and authenticated or a graded item. It was still in the display box.
Right, right. How awesome. And thanks for sharing that. And congratulations to you, to Mike. Couldn't happen to some better folks in the hobby. And to get some white whales like that. These are the stories I love to hear as a collector. I swear. I mean, this is I can't wait to go to the show myself and hopefully one day share stories like that with you guys. But that's what it's all about. So I'm happy to hear that. Happy you guys landed some truly rare and amazing packs. And like I said, in great hands too. So awesome. Um, Sean, what's going on? Thanks for joining. I do have a question for you here, real quick, and we'll turn to some other. If you have some more buying stories here, Kurt, I just want to kind of go in order here. Chris was asking, what is? Oh, I don't know if that was for me or for you. I'm guessing that's for you, but I guess post national wise, most recent. Would that qualify as most recent for you, or one of
What
your
is the
most?
most recent? Yeah. So I have not. I should say, as far as I'm aware of, I have not purchased anything post national.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
those things
Well,
get blended.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
I
the
would say that
national.
hockey packs there probably one of the last ones there.
So I made a few purchases at the show. Yeah, most recent purchase, there was just like we talked about the 7D. Then I also teased a picture. I purchased a 66 Batman cello pack. It's like Steve
There
said
it
there.
is.
So of course I got that. That did have the iconic black back card number 1, the Batman on the back of the pack.
Oh man, yes, I saw your post. That is a great pack.
So that one is definitely fits my collection.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but the highlight of the show, even though I did get some really nice items for myself, including that manager's dream cello, those were purchases that were arranged ahead of time. Like I knew that purchase was going to happen. It was just let's meet at the National and make the transaction. The same thing with the Batman pack. The uniqueness and the beauty of the National is not knowing about that 70 hockey box. So the 62 cello, which is the manager's dream card, Clemente or not Clemente, Mays and Mantle, on top of the cello pack. That's a pack I've known about for years, and maybe I bugged the owner enough, and one of those deals where we knew we were finally going to get together in person again, and that makes it easier not shipping those types of items.
Yeah.
So
That's
I was
the old
happy
cliche.
to.
I was gonna say, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was saying the old cliche, persistence builds character, right?
We all do it.
Yeah, sure. Hey, listen, I remember I've shared this in previous episodes and how I bugged you with that Clemente pack. So so we all do it at some stage. When we really love something, we don't hide it, right?
Yes, we do. That's correct.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. So 62, you landed at 62. You landed that amazing Batman, those hockey packs. Anything else you want to share with us in terms of buying or on the positive side? Because I know you have something to share with us in terms of reseals and fakes. I want to hear about that in a second. But to close
Yep.
out on good buys.
Yep, we'll do that later. On good buys, I was able to pick up a few smaller type items that guys will see on the Thursday night breaks. Some 90s boxes, a few packs here or there. That was tougher to purchase some of those items than in years past. Some unrealistic asking prices and on some of that. I was a little disappointed. I didn't be able to do a little more shopping in that route. And I always got to try to make a purchase from, our friends at Baseball Card Exchange too.
Yeah.
And that's where I purchased the 73 Tops hockey box from. So, my purchases around the show from dealer to dealer, I said I bought a few items for Thursday night, some boxes, but there was some other stuff out there. I tried to make a swing at, and just didn't have much luck.
Yeah, no, I imagine there's some challenges there too. With the negotiation side, you'll have some stories to share on the good side and the bad side. So, um, Is it true what Mike is saying that there's a Mars Attacks wax pack at the National, or is that just him messing around with us?
Well, that might have been lost in the shuffle of a Friday night somewhere. So I think he might still be, not thinking straight.
Yeah. Man, I really, I keep on hearing or reading these comments about Friday night. I hope some video emerges of Friday night.
If there's video that surfaces, Barnes might be phoning his lawyer.
Oh, JB, if you're watching this, you better run to the hills, my friend. Oh, too funny. So, yeah, so I guess, unless you have something else you want to add to that topic, why don't we segue, like anything else, it's always good. We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the hobby, and especially with trusted folks, and in this type of platform, I think it's great. So tell me a little bit about what you might have seen, at the show that was just like, really, what are you doing here? Like in terms of fakes or
Yeah.
reseals or anything like that. What can you tell us?
The better shredder there, that is JB, that's Barnes. He was with me a few days and he got to see firsthand. So, as a dealer, you get approached with stuff to buy. And one of these in particular was a couple raw 1982 Topps baseball cello packs with, of course, Cal Ripken on top.
Yeah.
And so, I like to buy stuff, and you never know what's good or bad till you look at it, because we just saw a 70 hockey box. So you
Right.
take the packs and you examine them, and pretty easy to tell one's, resealed. And second one took, and looked pretty good. It was a pretty good job, but it was resealed as well. And, you just try to be polite with the guys and, hand their material back.
Right.
And, you never quite know if they know it's resealed or they're trying to pawn it off on you. But, a lot of people take offense when you tell them there's an issue with their product. And I never try to tell guys that I think their stuff is bad, only after the fact. Like the guy with the 2 Ripken cells, I just says, I just don't think I'm interested. And
Right.
he proceeds to ask, well, why not? Isn't this what you do? Don't you sell this stuff?
Right.
So when the question's thrown back at me, then I'll give my opinion, and it's not, the guys
Yeah.
take offense.
Well, yeah, but you're right. I mean, you try to handle it, and I applaud you for that. You try to take the most politically correct approach to the whole thing, but if somebody asks a specific question, it's also good that you do what you did in that case, and just let them know, well, this is why. Because to your point, why would you not be? I mean, your forte, right? I don't want to put words in your mouth, right? Your specialty is unopened, let's call it, mid 70s, right, and beyond material. So you're hitting right in your wheelhouse with an 82 cello. You're turning it down. There's a good reason for it, right? So he asked the question. I'm glad you answered it.
So, and that was just one example. I saw a couple bad early 70s raw baseball packs, other 70s, early or later
Yeah.
70s, 80s, bad stuff. Outside of that hockey box, which was, really amazing to have that show up, the majority of the raw stuff that was presented to me, and by majority, I think it was literally everything else. In my opinion, and guys that were in my booth, I, let them look too. Srincione looked at items. I showed JB, he saw these bad Ripken cellos. I mean, it was all bad.
Yeah.
It just gets, but, and I hate to say this, we're talking about the ugly side of the National. So if there's 2,500 dealers at the National, very few people are unopened dealers. Now, there's a lot of modern tables or cross tables that will sell unopened items here or there, boxes that Steve's authenticated or whatever,
Right. Right.
that they're picking up on a collection. And if somebody's trying to sell bad unopened, it takes one guy at the show to say yes. So it's the perfect place to try to sell something.
Right. Law of averages. They'll take their chances, to your point. And, I think too, I mean, it's great that this gets brought up. And if you don't mind me kind of chiming, I just want to throw my 2 cents in this. I think it's important that this type of stuff gets talked about, because it basically substantiate, like further adds to the importance of topics that we often see even in the groups and all that regarding how important authentication is and authenticators are and the backstory behind those authenticators and understanding their knowledge of product and the history. Because as you see all the time, and more so at the national, there are a lot of sharks out there, and they're going to try to pawn off this unopened material. And that is, I mean, look, every hobby has fakes out there, but unopened has, let's call it above average. I know autographs is a big one too, right? But unopened's a tough one. There's a lot of people faking it. So it's good that this is brought up, and I'm glad, I'm glad that people are hearing the fact that you saw a lot of it. And it sucks to hear that, but at the same time, it's good that we know it. So my next question to you real quick is from a percentage standpoint, what would you say is in terms of what you saw out there? Was there a, like, was half the stuff coming your way fake or potentially fake, or can you quantify that at all?
Um, Now, of
Tough to
course, you
say,
had
right?
graded items presented to me. Of all the items that were presented to me raw,
Yeah.
outside of the gentleman with the 70 hockey box and the box of other hockey packs. And what's funny, in that box of hockey packs, there was one bad pack in there. So that guy had a bad pack as well. So we had
Wow.
to shuffle that out of the mix. So his 70 packs were great, but he had one, so we just shuffle that out too. But if you take that guy out of the mix, literally every item I saw that was not already authenticated was bad.
Yeah. Yeah. That's. I mean, it pains me to hear it. I'm not shocked though, and I'm sure a lot of the veteran unopened guys aren't either. Great comment here by Mike. The reason there is such a demand for unopened authenticators is because there are so few people with the requisite skill set, and those people's time is in very high demand. Well said, Mike. I mean, I think it's important to note this. You know, it's a lot harder than people think. And I applaud. Not because we've been longtime friends, but the Mike Cirenciones and Tim, Monahans of the world, and a lot of these guys that we all know from the groups that have been in this for a long time, and that are kind enough with us, with some other folks like myself included, and even you, to right in the beginning, especially, right, that they share their information with us so that we don't get duped, or that we stop getting duped, because I'm sure I've been duped before. I'm sure you have once or twice.
I've been
But
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this information is super important, and guys, take this as a fair warning. Kurt's great info from today is that they're out there and they're alive and well, and authentication is probably the single most important part of our open hobby today. Is these trusted sources that help keep the hobby alive? Because if not, where would we be, right, Kurt?
I agree. So it is the only thing that matters, to us is
Yeah,
authentication. And I like that comment from Honeyman a while back. He probably doesn't make that 70 hockey box purchase if I wasn't there looking at the packs as well, and vice versa. If it was just offered to me, now my opinion, well, I thought those packs were good, but before I'm ready to shell out, five figures on it, it was really nice to have another trusted opinion standing right
right,
next to you that backed you up right away and says, yes, I do think these are good as well.
right,
And there's just not, just not a lot of people that, can give you that opinion that, you can feel good about. So it's a difficult, it's a difficult thing. You have to have the mindset to learn
right.
and to be willing to listen to your friends and listen to, Steve Hart. Or if you do get a bad pack, the National's a great place. Hey, Steve, can you give me your opinion on this?
Yeah.
What did you see on this? Those type of things.
You brought up another good point that I want to add to what you just said now. When I interviewed Steve, one of the big takeaways that I had in my conversation with him, both online and offline, and I love this about him, how humble he is. It's not like he's sitting here and saying that he's like the all-knowing today and he's got this brick wall and he's not going to listen to anything moving forward. He's saying that his information and his knowledge is constantly evolving. And as he gets more information, he just becomes a better version of what he was before in the unopened world. And that's where you need to be, is not only need to be good, like in this case, you're constantly listening to people. You made a great comment just before. That's important in the unopened world, because every time you think you know everything, you learn something new from somebody that might know specifically about a certain product or a certain sport or a certain, whether it's cellos, right, or rack packs. You have to keep an open mindset, and that also helps protect the unopened world hobby.
Yeah, there was a little wrinkle in the 70 box as well. And I mean, this is very difficult because I encountered this at times authenticating 80s material. There was one pack in the 70 hockey box that did not have gum in it.
Oh, wow.
And, the back of the pack, the roller marks, the folds, everything we examined, I mean, we liked, but that's a red flag. Not having gum is a red flag.
Yeah.
Let alone on a 5-figure deal. I mean, that's enough to almost blow up a deal, because you
Right.
question everything. So, to be able to, think through that and, try to justify your instincts on that. Those are difficult scenarios. And, those are tools that just aren't easily learned and
Yeah.
picked up. So
It takes a lot of
you're right.
time. It really does.
You have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to put pieces of the puzzle together. You have to be able to remember what this group of 78 boxes look like. And I mean, it's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And the key takeaway, not to beat on a dead horse, guys, open mind. If you think you know everything, erase the chalkboard, guys, because yeah, you may know a lot. You may have been in this hobby for 20 years, but if you keep an open mind, you can potentially learn even more than what you learn now. And that's really important in this. I try to keep that mindset, and I'm constantly. I'm surprised I haven't lost Mike and Tim as friends, because all the years I've been poking them forever every time I buy something. But God, they have made me, and I would never call myself an expert. But I definitely would say I've come a long way, in my let's call it now 15 years or so, really dabbling in a little like 12 years or so, dabbling in an open. I have them to thank for that. The knowledge base that I have now is mainly because of them. But the fact that they were willing to share it and help educate me, and then I try to pay it forward, even with this show, this platform, and talking with good folks like yourself and other folks in the hobby, just try to share this information and make us all stronger, and protect us unopened nerds, right? To keep on buying the right stuff out there.
That's correct.
So one thing I wanted to share Mike's comment again here, with the group, but I like this comment, so I wanted to touch on it again. I bet you a lot of those guys went to Steve as well and tried to sit through there, and then they kind of just started farming it out to see if somebody would bite the bait, right?
Yeah, this isn't the first national where I've encountered, bad product, but I would say this was the first one where I have not encountered, hardly any good product to get sprinkled in that I was able to, purchase up, and it was all on the bad end.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, can I ask you this? If get a little bit more specific in terms of all the fake product that was coming your way, in terms of format, what led the charge? Was it wax packs? Was it cellos? Was it racks? Or was it just a mix of everything?
In this show, well, it was definitely a mix. I didn't see many racks present to me, so it was a mix between wax packs and cello packs. But there was definitely more cello packs that I thought were presented to me that were bad. And with the kind of same notion, a lot of them, look like they had been. If you really knew what you're looking at, they were heated to some degree to try to be resealed. So there was some sort of melting on the wrappers, or the white, was faded or blurred, because the heat pulled it, or something. So that was the common thread on the cellos that I was seeing. look
Yeah.
like, resealed jobs with some sort of heat added to them.
Right. Right. Yeah, well, this is real good info. And I hope everyone is enjoying this and taking heed, taking warning, because it's not and this is just my 2 cents. Again, I'm not a major show buff, but it's not just the national. I think to a larger extent, this stuff, let's say they couldn't move it at the national. I could see them packing their bags and, oh, the show in Dallas is coming up, or I'll go to White Plains, right? Some of these bigger regional shows, Florida, I could see them taking a stab and eventually trying to pawn it off to somebody, right?
Yep. If they know the product is bad, or even if they don't know the product is bad, at some point it takes, one person to say yes. Most people, now you and me might, I've had bad stuff in the past. If I get something bad, I usually toss it. I actually keep a box of all the bad
Yeah.
stuff I have to use for reference. But,
Yeah.
if we get a bad pack, or you or Srincione or somebody, we just toss it or we rip it. But, most
Same
people are
here.
going to
Yeah.
try
Yeah.
to, they're going to try to move it at some point. That's just what, most people will do.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a very fair point. Yeah, I'm actually not to throw teasers here, but I do have some fake packs in the last year. I'm still getting duped, unfortunately. It just happens, as much as we're in this hobby. But I have them, and I'm doing some like just some videos where I'm, me recording, just opening them up, and eventually I want to do like a little episode of Hobby Talk where I just kind of show myself opening them up and just share this information with people as best I can, because again, I think education's key. We're a small niche group, as you well said in our part one of this interview. How there was just a few select tables, right? But we're a strong small community, so it's good that we all hear and share this info with everybody.
It is. The other aspect, if you want to go to that, I don't know if you want to call this the bad or the ugly, or where we're going. This stuff was, at least good. It was already authenticated product, graded packs. But there was a twofold spread happening throughout the show. One was the flood of 86 Fleer basketball packs that I had offered to me to buy. I have never in a national past had an 86 Fleer basketball pack offered to me for sale. Never. So I've done 5 of these things, and this was the first time I've ever been offered, a graded 86 Fleer basketball pack. And I was offered several. And it was
Really?
the same theme over and over and over. I would start with, I'd examine the pack. It was already graded, but you like to look at it. And I would just ask the question, what are you looking for the pack? And every asking price to me, were asking prices from 3 months ago. And,
Yeah.
Something that I can't even make an offer on because, the asking price is, so far out of line.
Right.
And, we know some of this stuff was sold for big time dollars months ago, and, people had bought this stuff. And I'm not sure how that situation rectifies itself, but, just, I would have loved to buy an 86 Fleer basketball pack. I've never owned one. And this is the first time, I've had a chance to, but every time it was asking prices that were, just not in the
Yeah.
realm.
Yeah, you're right. I think a lot of people were just buying on the high. They were the fear of losing out. They bought on the high. Here they go trying to, at bare minimum, break even or even try to make a profit, but it's way above, what the current market value is. And yeah, and then there you go. Because to your point, that amongst a lot of basketball. I mean, I'm not a blessed basketball buff, but I do follow what's kind of going on. Most basketball product has really settled down. So I'm not surprised to hear that a lot of people are trying to ask you to pay high prices on that stuff.
Yes, it has settled a lot. Now, I was able to move several 87 Fleer graded basketball packs and
Mhm.
some 81s, 80, 79s, but I was priced where I think the market is today and not where it was 3 months ago. So
Yeah.
guys saw those items from me and they saw them, with realistic values, and then we're able to make a purchase.
Right. Right. And I imagine, you broke a lot of hearts when you kept on saying no, because that 86 isn't. I mean, I'm not a 86 guy at all, but I mean, those packs are way past my pay grade. But I look at that and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of people there that I first off, I didn't realize there was so many, for such an expensive pack. But secondly, I didn't realize, that these things would be so expensive, continue to be so expensive. But I can imagine you saw at least maybe one or two 15-year-olds with the suitcases holding those things, trying to sell them at a high price, right?
Unfortunately, a couple of the people, yes, were younger people, who
Yeah,
had them.
yeah.
So,
They sold their
uh,
GME.
yeah, sold the GameStop and
Yeah.
bought 86 basketball.
And they bought 86 Fleer. I think eventually the things will, like we've talked about this so many times on previous episodes about hills and valleys, and I think eventually it'll be fine. So if it's a quick flip, you're in trouble, but if you hold on to your product, you'll be fine in the long term. So guys, yeah, if you do have any questions, come in, bring them in, guys. Anything regarding the national. And honestly, I'll keep it open for them. If you want to talk about anything else, anything you've been seeing on the threads or just topics in general, bring them in. I'll throw them on here. Kurt, you have a few more minutes to kind of hang in there and see what kind of comes in.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm doing all right.
okay, good. Yeah. So I think, yeah, if you guys want to throw any questions, please throw them in. I'll be happy to do our best to address them here. So, Mike wrote here, my observation at the National was that a lot more young collectors where they're dealing with modern. 80s sports was soft and didn't move much, but the high end rare unopened did sell. What's your take on that, Kurt?
Yeah, and that was kind of not word for word, but that was my comments from earlier in the day. I said that late 70s through mid 80s stuff was really soft, really cold. Um, I moved one box, really is all from that. From that category stuff. But that was what I was anticipating, so I didn't bring a ton of it. And I mentioned too, the kids were everywhere, so that was
Yeah.
fun to see that enthusiasm and them out there. Now, I might not personally be involved in that market, but it is you need that age of people in the market.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree that the modern market definitely is really strong, and as JB's alluding to here, the cat boxes were really strong. That's gonna be
I
the
was
running joke for years, Kurt. I'm sorry.
I was getting a little nervous because Sunday it was still there, but it did make
Yeah.
a disappearance on Sunday afternoon.
I think that I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say I think JB pulled a Bobby Valentine from the Mets back when he was a manager and he got kicked out of the game. He came back on with the glasses and the mustache and went over to your booth and bought the cat box. That's what I'm gonna go out and say. Oh man.
So
That's too funny. So, yeah, I mean, so is there anything, in terms of, given us some really, really good insight here in general from the show. Is there any other, takeaways, any key points you want to throw out there, while we're here live for the group in terms of, just again, key observations or takeaways?
yeah, I think for anybody that's going to be setting up at the national, um, and I speak to what I deal with, the packs, the boxes. You need to have kind of your foot or your thumb on the market all the time, knowing what you think may sell. Because if I would have brought the inventory selection that I brought in 2019, I may not have sold hardly anything because none of that stuff was selling at this show. So you got to kind of have an idea of what you can move with, because the market moves and it's a different market. Like anything, it evolves and it shifts, and the dynamics of one national to the next are not
Right.
always the same for unopened. So you need to be prepared for that. If stuff isn't moving on Facebook or on eBay at certain prices, why would it move at those prices at the national?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, because I think a lot of people, to your point, are going to be dialed in one way or another, look, with their phone ready and looking at comps, you know.
It's too easy.
Uh,
Yes,
yeah,
it's too easy. So I don't know how many, right here, guys are, we're looking at a graded pack, and it was no surprise. It was always a basketball because those have come for a huge swing. So they're staring at my '87 Fleer basketball packs. I was one of the only people at the show who had any '87 Fleer basketball packs. Steve, of course, had a couple, and I'm sure I missed, maybe there's a guy here or there, but basically nobody else had '87 Fleer basketball packs. So the guys would come, and what they're doing. They're pulling up, recent eBay sales.
right.
Um, and you have to be in, guys aren't, they're not dumb. You
Yeah,
have to, if
yeah,
you want to move something, you got to be in the price. And, a comp isn't, unfortunately, a comp isn't from 3 months ago if there's 20 other sales of the same product, that are less from that time.
yeah. No, that's a good point. There's this is actually a good question. To change gears, I just you may know better than me. I've no, I only have a small frame of reference here, but has the show ever hit the West Coast, or has always been kind of like that Chicago, Atlantic City, like East Coast loop?
I believe, now I have not done a West Coast show and it's been a while, but I believe it could have been out in Anaheim at one point for a show, but it has not been recently. I think it was all out in Baltimore, maybe 2012 range.
Yeah,
But the guys that make the rules there, Mike Strincioni just said it, the guys that set the rules, it's not going to be out there until the people on that board change. It was Anaheim, so I guess how I knew that, but no, the trend is going to be Chicago, Atlantic City. I think for the time being.
yeah, yeah, and I think they're probably basing that on maybe the concentration of dealers and those that are purchasing the booths at the show and where they're maybe set up. So was there maybe somebody if you don't know this, maybe somebody can answer it, but Dallas I think was another location at one point, right? Or at least they were contemplating it, right?
I think there was some talk of possibly, if the show couldn't have happened in Chicago, moving it to
Oh,
Dallas
right.
this year.
You're right. You're right.
That I don't know if that was rumor or anything to that, but there's some, yes, San Francisco 2020.
Don't drop your
Barnes,
wallet.
if they do that, I'm staying with you. So you have to board my entire family.
We're ordering into the hotel room.
Yeah. So you can put up my whole family, 3 dogs, 3 bunnies, and we'll probably bring a couple cows too.
Cows. Oh, that's great. Oh, too funny. John Honeyman and I were enjoying the chair while you were not there. Oh, so we have I don't know if this is a joke question or serious. I'm just posting it out here. Talk about your sale to Crocs. What product was it? Because it wasn't moving.
So I did sell some of my leftover junk wax product to Kruk Cards on the last day
Yeah.
of the show. So, and I know Kruk, and he was nice to work with. There was a couple reasons for that. The biggest reason was, as some of you have posted, I did something to my back, and I was in a lot of pain on Sunday, and I knew the trip home was going to be a disaster, and I didn't want to lift. Literally, I didn't want to move. I couldn't move any more weight. I didn't want to tweak anything anymore, or who knows. So so I went and talked to Kruk, and we came to a deal on some of my leftover stuff that did not sell. So I was thankful for him to take that off of me, because
that's cool.
I was hurting.
Yeah. Well, look, Mars Attacks. My observation from the Nationals is that cards are very heavy and our knees, backs, arms, etc. Not what they used to be. Oh, good observation, my friend. Oh, that's funny. So let's see what else we have here. Oh yeah, no, just some more comments. So yeah, I mean, look, I think this is some, like, to me, this is great feedback because again, I'm going in. all my information, although it's great sources, Kurt, has always been secondhand, from folks that have been at the show. So I think I'm somewhat dialed in on what the show vibe is going to be like, but of course I don't have firsthand side of it. So I'm kind of going in with this mindset because I'm pretty much a lock for next year in Atlantic City. Taking all this info and kind of having an understanding of what to expect. And I think maybe there'll be slight deviations as maybe in the next 10 months or so. Maybe there's some trends that change, and whether it's non-sports, right, or basketball or breaks or whatever it is, right. But I kind of have a good mindset of it. So I think this conversation's good. And guys, if you want to chime in comments on observations and feedback, that's always great too. I'm always all ears, and I think the other guys would appreciate it as well. So, Kurt, is there anything else in terms of, it doesn't even have to be show related at this point, while we're here talking, what that you would like to talk about regarding, any recent trends or any recent news, feel free to, open forum here. I always love having good conversation with you and the group here.
Yeah, I made this comment to a couple of my friends at the show, and this is I don't know if you want to say hypothesis or theory or just something that was floating around my head at the show. So we've seen, the late 70s through 80s material, has become soft the last, couple months. There's still guys buying it. Still made website sales. I just made some today, but it's definitely softer than it was several months back. And this was just my own theory. I think there might be more people. So if I sell an $85 box off my website, I think there might be more people that are shredding this stuff than we realize. And I think the PSA shutdown has really affected that segment of those years in the unopened market. Because I just think that there's more people that have been opening this stuff than we have realized. I could be totally off basis on that, but that's
Yeah.
just something that was, I'm trying to, piece together, why some of this stuff. And it's not even that the stuff has dropped back in price some. Like, that's always going to happen. I've seen that before. I had a show at the 2018 National. Unopened was in a slump, but it still sold very strong for me if you were priced right. I sold a ton of it, even though prices were down. This show, you can say prices were down, but it didn't sell anywhere. So
Right.
I'm just wondering if more of this stuff has gotten opened and more people are buying it and opening it than we realize. And the PSA shutdown has, completely stopped those guys from looking at it.
That's a great observation. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, JB agree. I mean, I think the backlog does affect, right? And that it's a domino effect. So good observation, good point. Too funny. So yeah, I think you bring up that point. I think that you mentioned earlier, and then I'm just kind of back, going retracing my steps here, and the first half of our conversation that Brandon was having like an epic, show. I know you guys were sharing some space in the booth, and he's more focused in on raw, and I am assuming slab cards. So that kind of lends itself to me a little bit of what you're saying too, right? Because of the backlog there, maybe current slabs are hot because people don't want to wait a year, right, to send theirs in and get it. So if they're building sets or whatever, they're just kind of farming or looking at more so than ever. So that I think that's a good observation on your side, and probably why it's the slabs and the raws were doing, mostly the slabs were doing really well at the show, right?
Yeah. So those, like I said, those guys had a phenomenal show. Just talking to a few other dealers around you that were selling, some modern stuff. I think the show as a whole, most dealers did quite well if
Mm-hmm.
if they were priced at current market on all that new stuff, because the people in the rooms, the attendance was huge, and that's what those people were looking for. And that goes back to, I had mentioned earlier to this evening, I was trying to buy a little 90s product for some breaks and stuff, and there were several items I was interested in, but that you'd go up to a dealer on Sunday when you could normally, strike deals from, table to table and take some product home.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to give a deal on Sunday. And I think those guys just made so much money. It didn't matter for them if they sold another $300 or not. So that would, that I think the people selling low end to say $500 and under modern items did really well at the show. I think there were a ton of buyers for that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. No, good point. Good observation. I think you see some of the comments rolling in here. I think we're all in agreement in general. And good point here by Mike, in terms of the lower price point. I know we've talked about this, quite a bit on some live episodes and even on the interviews with yourself and some of the other folks. But it really, we hope that we get back to a point where there's a more affordable point, whatever that middle ground is. I'm not going to judge on what that is right now, but we need to find better ground, for submissions and price points for those submissions, because I think a lot of folks might be antsy out there to submit products. So I think that's definitely affecting or impacting the trend. And if you think about it, you may, now that I'm just again thinking out loud here, right? Early 80s product, late set. When you look at the tiered pricing and some of the most impacted products, what is it, right? Early mid 80s. If I'm wrong, correct me, but that would be to me that they're valuable, but not valuable enough to sub. Maybe I'll hold on to them for another year or two, right?
Yeah, I agree. But the junk era stuff, even if you wanted to submit an 89 Donruss Griffey, you can still buy that box cheap, have fun, shred it, and put that card aside to think at a later date I will. And
Right.
that stuff isn't as effective or as affected as much as I think, yes, the late 70s through the 80s has been with the shutdown.
Yeah, I think that's that, sweet spot. And I mean that in a negative connotation. But yeah, I think that's that spot right now that's being most impacted. JB makes a good point. 73 Series 5, I'm not going to be impacted by that. We know what that costs. That's some of the hot early 70s stuff. I'm not impacted by current price points. I'll send that in. But, if I have a 79 Cello, yeah, I'm going to think twice about it right about now. So,
yeah. And, this is a concern of mine. And
sorry, hey Josh, what's going on, buddy?
Hey Josh, I did snap a few pictures of Josh at the show, and I did tell you this on when we were live earlier today. But I've never seen so many Luka cards in my life.
Yeah.
Almost literally every dealer at the show had cases, and the whole cases were filled with. It was all Lukas.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
incredible.
it's insane. It's top. I don't want to misquote. Somebody can correct me if they want on comments, but I think it's top 3 in terms of PSA 10, specifically PSA 10 population by player. I think Luka's number 1 or number 2. It's like 18,000 Luka rookies in just PSA 10.
There might have been 15,000 of them at the show.
That many. Jeez. And I do remember reading briefly, I think Prism leads the way, because it's not just one format. So like it's, there's different Panini products, of course, but I think the Panini Prism was leading that charge of 18,000 or so. So, but the point is there's a ton. So if however many booths there are, I'm surprised, probably like every third booth probably had one, right?
So, yeah. The other thing now that you say Prism, and this is just, again, an observation that isn't based on much because it's not quite in my wheelhouse, but I would typically see on Saturday and Sunday of the National, when you walk by the big corporate dealers, the David Adams, Steel City, blowout cards, they bring in pallets and pallets of modern product to sell. And normally at the end of the show, their show floor is close to empty. They've sold a ton of material and they're cutting deals on Sunday to try to get rid of it.
Right.
Now, they, of course, sold stuff at the show, but this is just an observation. I thought they had a lot more product left than they would have in shows past. And I don't know if that's because, you're trying to get a higher price point for some of those items or what, but it just seemed like there was more of that stuff that had not sold that would have normally sold in shows past.
Right. And interesting. I'm looking here. There's again some great feedback from the group as well that was at the show here. And Mike was just saying and just kind of adding to the comments of the show itself. Thursday, Friday seemed to be the best for the dealers, but Saturday had the most traffic. And I guess there's some correlation probably with the guests that were doing autographs in attendance. I know that I'm assuming the Hogan Flair was like Saturday as well, right? Some of the bigger names and whether it's wrestling, non-sport, wrestling or major sport, they were probably there Saturday, right?
I believe so. Yes, that is
Yeah.
correct. So that
Yeah.
would have definitely boosted attendance.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike, absolutely. I don't know if somebody could pay 250 to grade in as much as I love 83s, 82s, but that's a lot of money to ask for slabbing an 83 Boggs.
And here's what here's what's alarming to me, even in the pack. So right now the PSA has even suspended the economy pack grading level, which is a $25 service, a $250 item or under. Whenever they get through the backlog and they're going to open up, I mean, I'm not convinced they're going to even open that service back up. I don't know.
You bring up a great point.
The same thing with the lower economy level card service. I'm not sure they're going to bring it back. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I mean, think about and Mike and Tim and some of the other folks here can talk to it better than I can. But there was a point where you would almost wait for the like monthly special, right, to send in a couple cards that were like, oh, bargain price, $6 a card or whatever it was, right, or even unopened. I think that had a couple of sales here and there, but now it's like you don't even know if you're going to be able to get the economy, service level, the bulk service level, if that'll ever even come back. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next, let's call it 6 to 12 months as they reshape their business model, and we patiently wait for that.
Yeah, and that will affect the unopened market, whatever that decision is.
That's right. But I think it also, and I know it's kind of been a hot topic, right? But it does open the doors. We talked about this actually in our live Q&A with JB and Mike, if I'm not mistaken. I think it opens the doors to the possibility, right, of other options, right, in terms of authentication for unopened material. I'll leave it as vague as I can because that's a long and winded. But yeah, I mean, I think if they don't do it, and if the right sources are there and there's the right people behind that from an authentication and reputation standpoint, I think the door might be left wide open for some of us veterans to put our dollars elsewhere because we're going to get impatient, or we're just not going to spend that much money for the 83 Fleer Boggs, just to use Mike's example.
The market is definitely there and big enough for another player to be in the pack grading world. And I'm not talking about the grade in 1964 baseball cello packs. I'm talking about grade in mid to late 80s through 90s, junk era packs, low dollar packs that we all love, our star packs and stuff. That market is definitely there. It just takes I think some of the people that have tried to enter the market are forgetting what we keep saying, the only thing that matters. They're forgetting step number one. They're getting ahead of themselves, where step number one is, who are we going to have lead our team on authentication? And I think if there's a company out there that wants to get involved in that, that is where you have to lead. You have to have a history of cultivating relationships with collectors so people know your knowledge base. They know where your strengths are. They know where your weaknesses are. And then I don't think it would be bad for somebody to say, if we enter that market, we're only going to concentrate on the low dollar stuff. You know,
Hmm.
you want to start there. You want to
Yeah.
get some business. You want to get a reputation. You want people to
Yeah.
know you. And, but I think if people want to jump in that market, they have to be willing to do step number one first and lead with, this is our guy and this is where we're going to do. And this is what we're going to do,
Mhm.
instead of, leading from the back. I think that's a huge miss that,
Yeah.
a couple companies have tried to do, and, and haven't, are missing that point.
Yeah. Excellent comments there. And I agree with everything you said. I think, you know, there's so much to this. There's so much more to this than looks and let's call it optics. It's reputation is key. I'm talking selfishly now about myself and how I go about my small unopened. I still call it small compared to some of the monsters I see out there. It's grown, but it's still small in comparison. Unopened collection. I wouldn't just throw that in anyone's hands, and it certainly needs to be to me. I could not that I could care less, but it's a secondary, almost tertiary, in terms of the ranking of importance to me. I think number one and alone at the top, and number one in terms of importance is who is authenticating my product, and what hands are touching this, who is telling me that this is good or bad. When I send my cello to PSA, I know that's making a trip out to Indiana, and I am very happy that it's taking that trip to Indiana, and that it's going to get the blessing from one of the people we totally respect in this hobby. And it's going to make its way back to get encapsulated. That's what I want to hear. Right. So you need there, and there's a small group, right, that fall fit into that mold. So I think that's super important, that always stays there. Reputation first. And if I'm wrong, call me out, guys. But I think we're speaking, I think we're in agreement here, right?
Yeah, we are. And, you know, it's, now the unopened guys, we seem to know a lot of each other, but, it doesn't even necessarily have to be a name that, that we know. But we need a name, and we need to know how many packs they've handled on a daily basis. What do they handle? What are their strengths? And they should be, upfront with that. Just like I was talking to you about, what I want to authenticate at the show. I'll tell you where my strengths are, and this is
Yeah.
where I'm going to lead to. But that's
Yeah.
also how you create skills and move into other products, because you learn off of the things that you're good at.
Yeah.
And I would send an 89 Donruss pack with a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card on back to a different grading company if I just had a name and somebody there that looks like, what, this guy looks like, he's
Yeah.
got some qualifications. I'm going to give him
Yeah.
a shot. But
Yeah.
I would
I
have
agree.
no problem doing that. But you need a name.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's probably some, let's call it, sleeping giants out there, people with long reputations. And there's obviously, I'm sure, people that know who they are to a certain extent. But if we kind of ended up getting that small resume that who's touching this, and you almost kind of like breathe that, it's like that breath of fresh air, like, oh, okay, that's great to hear. Here you go. Like, it's not just like, here oh, let me just give you my 78 cello with Eddie Murray on it and hope for the best. No, I just can't do that. And I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way as me. You know, I think there's some really good comments coming in here. I put it up before. I'll put it up again. But JB made a good point. I agree 100% with this. There's Steve, Kurt, Tim, Mike, and there's a big cliff after that. And that's just my observation. If I'm wrong, perhaps there's somebody who wants to come out of the woodwork and kind of talk about their credentials and their history. That's great. I'm all ears. But the way I see it, there's a core small group. And JB, you're not alone in that, and myself, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this or that are in our group agree with you. Mike also echoed similar comments too, in terms of the market, and the same names, come up. So, that is super important to us. And I know I'm repeating myself, but it's just crazy important to this hobby. It's who it is, and the bonus is how it's the other stuff, how it's encapsulated, if it looks pretty in the package or not. That's nice, but the need to is the authenticator.
And that's why I think a new company that you know it can be looking at getting into the realm. They need to concentrate on the areas of the market that are much more available. To help build a knowledge base. You don't want to be. I don't think you want to be jumping in and going, send me your 79 hockey packs to grade. I think you want to be jumping in and send me your 90 Fleer basketball packs, because it's much easier to find somebody with experience that has dealt with a lot of those products
Mm-hmm.
than it has to, deal with the other products.
Yeah. Yeah, look, there's some comments here by popular demand, and I'm sure you've probably given it some thought. I think RVP needs to authenticate packs, not just boxes. And I will say this, not because we've we're friends, Kurt. I try to be as journalistic as I can in this. I try to keep a neutral approach to a lot of these interviews and all that. But I do say that I'll give you my opinion on this piece in particular. I love the approach you've taken to slowly and steadily learning the market. You've always, by your own admission, said, and you even said it today a little bit as well, that you've taken this approach that you stay focused on what you're most comfortable with, what you're most knowledgeable, what you've purchased the most of, what you've handled the most of, and that you've authenticated, and you're slowly learning and branching out. That's the right approach. You're building years of reputation. You're showing people, hey, I'm not messing around here. So I really do applaud you for that.
So I appreciate that. And, that goes to what we've said. You know, it's a skill that is learned just like anything else. And the only way you learn it is by handling it and constantly handling it, and then again and again and again, and handling tops and Donruss and Fleer and Opeachy and basketball and hockey and football. It's all a little bit of, a piece of the puzzle. I
Right.
wouldn't have been able to sign off on that 70 tops hockey, that partial box that Michael and me were looking at, if I hadn't had a ton of experience, looking at 83 tops wax packs. And in particular, recently, I've looked at a ton of 81 tops hockey packs and even some raw 79 tops hockey packs that, I recently got back slabbed from Steve. That's how you get better and you're comfortable making those decisions on older product. It's because of, you can put the experience from the other products into that.
Yeah. Watch your back. Josh is going to body
Yeah.
slam you if you if you don't start authenticating packs.
It would not take much right now to get me to the ground. So
Yeah.
I mean, I would be on the ground in a hurry.
Yeah. Hey, Josh, good comment. I'm glad you brought that up because he's also one of the friends of this group, and I'm a big fan of. But Tom Salem, I would put in that group of really trusted folks that really understand some of the, especially the '80s product, and especially Opeachy, which I know he's branched off from that in recent years, but for many years that was his stronghold, and so I think we can all say that as well, that Tom is in that small group of people that we're comfortable with saying, hey, is this legit or is it not legit? I've definitely talked to him plenty offline about, hey, what do you think of this box? So small group, and I would add his name to that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Tom's great. So, and and why is that? He's handled a ton of product for a ton of
Absolutely.
years. So, and then
Absolutely.
it's just you start checking off the same boxes. So Tom's an honest guy. He's nice, and he handles material, and he handles it often.
Yeah.
So that so it the skill set needed. It's a very defined skill set, but you can only get to that skill set by handling product. And
Absolutely.
so that's what makes the difficulty of finding an
Yeah.
authentication team or an authenticator. That's why I think the entry to the market is for an authenticator who has a ton of experience and products that are much more easier to come by.
Right.
And, grow yourself, learn yourself, into the role.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike's just echoing our comments here about Tom as well. And, Mike wrote a good comment here too. I like the fact too that you accept orders as you can, right? Rather than just allowing some massive stockpile to kind of just sit there. So that's another kudos to you. You're not just saying yes to everybody. That at some point, if you had to, like if I called you up on Tuesday and said, "Hey, I want to send XYZ," if you're really inundated, you probably tell me, "Hey, can you just give me a week on that, or you give me a realistic time frame?"
I just had to, and it pained me. I had a phone call 2 days ago from a gentleman that I did not know, but he must have caught wind of the Sports Collector Daily interview I did with the guy at the National, and he phoned me up and had, it was right up my wheelhouse. He said he had 50 boxes of late 70s through mid 80s non-sport,
Yeah.
and I told him, I says, if you're not in a time crunch, I says, I can get those done later this year. But I explained to him my back situation and where I'm coming into the farm. And, I had basically to tell the guy, I can't do it right now. And it took, just pained me to tell him that. But, I just don't have, I'm in poor enough shape here right now that I told him I can't do it.
So we're not going to see some awesome posts about you running 21 mile an hour plus on your bike.
That is not happening in the short term.
In the short term, that's not happening. Oh, that's too funny. So so we've gotten some great info here, guys, and I haven't seen any more questions. I mean, Kurt, is there anything else you'd like to chime in on here? Before we end the live session here tonight.
I'll just reiterate some comments about the National because that is, our main topic. I think most people will consider the show to be, a huge success, record attendance. It was great to see the kids out in the show, whether they had looked like they had a lot of dollars in modern cards or not. The enthusiasm was there. We need that. The unopened market is still very niche compared to other segments of the hobby. The high-end unopened market is incredibly hot, incredibly strong. The low end of the unopened market, incredibly hot, incredibly strong. But we are definitely in a soft period with the 80s. But guys that have been around long enough, this trend won't last forever. So I'll post pictures of
buying. It's a buying opportunity.
Well, I just can say I'll post pictures later. I think next week I did make a little bit of purchase. So funny, I sold nothing of that. I literally sold none of that stuff at the show, and here I just made a pretty good buy of the stuff I did not sell. So the markets will change, but the big takeaway is the attendance was huge. The hobby is great right now. It was excellent to see friends. I think we're in pretty good standing right now where the hobby is.
Yeah. No, excellent stuff. And Kurt, as always, I know we've done so many interviews. This is becoming almost a regular, but I can't thank you enough. Every time I feel like we do these, I think I learned something new, or we get some really good feedback, and I learned something new from the group. And I just want to say this: I think the show isn't the show without not just the people we interview, but the comments. So I appreciate everybody taking the time to comment and add their questions and their feedback. Thanks again for that. And I think good time. Unless you have something else you want to add there, Kurt, we'll wrap things up here.
Nope, that sounds good to me, David. It's always fun. So, and you're right. So we love hearing all the comments because we got to figure out something to talk about.
Absolutely. So we'll be talking again. And thanks. You have a great weekend, guys.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys.